So I figured I should record this now while I'm still thinking about it, but essentially, the way I run ally attack, so this is going to be a little primer on ally attack, basically, in case no one's ever learned, so you can basically point people to this video if you want to learn, but ally attack strat, to start simply, you want to grab allies before hitting the investigation button at all. And we'll use a custom character here because this character happens to have 6 charisma, but this is true for any character that has 6 charisma. We'll pick a World of Horror background, and I think we had like Herald, but just to even explain it now, if you're on a Katak run, yeah, things can get bad. But the main reason why we started this, as we get into Herald, World of Horror character exclusive custom character, is that there is an option called Scary Story that I see a lot. Like anyone who uses the Scary Story recruit option, I'll explain this later for those who don't know, but anyone who uses this option, it usually works out. But we're gonna see right now what happens when I try it. So Charisma, Dexterity, Light, Strength, no Charisma. Everything but no Charisma. The one, like, already RNG's looking bad, but let's see what happens here. Another aside, funny enough, having the thing, and we'll enable the, oh wait, that's right, we can't. No, actually we can, we'll enable library. But, yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say. Gosh dang it. My mind is just so racing with thoughts right now, but usually I would just rely on hitting the recruit button. So for those who don't know, as you'll see in the school, and I'll try to make use of, one, we also grabbed 5 experience immediately to lower the experience threshold, but because when you hit the investigation button, you get 2 experience every time you hit it, unless you run into an enemy, of course, and that's another thing to worry about. But let's go over the mysteries first. I think we're just going to take Botanist first, regardless of what appears here. Yeah, nothing too bad. So, into Botanist we go. And so, at this point, you want, if I say that this strat is a lot more usable if you have at minimum 6 charisma. Preferably you want Fame or some other perk or positive that's actually excluding an ally that has to do with charisma or using ally attack. The reason I say that is because with Fame, obviously you immediately benefit from charisma because your actions are a lot faster based on the number of allies you have. If a character has like 7 or 8 charisma, you're already on your way and ally attack becomes viable at all. 6 is the bare minimum, but as you have seen in recent videos, with me trying to just raw recruit, and when I say raw recruit, I mean recruit without Intimidate, without Scary Story. When I try to raw recruit, there is a level of RNG there, but the other level, I mean, we can just enter the schoolyard just to kind of show you. This costs Doom, but hey, I don't want to ask for any of them though, but to explain, so you have a few options here. Latest Gossip is mainly for side story stuff, so if it does provide a benefit, someone let me know. Observe, you know, seems to be vanity, but if there is some clues to glean from this, if there is an effect, it's so negligible that I don't notice it with my RNG, or with RNG in general. We'll say that in the general case, share a creepy story essentially guarantees an ally. But, as I said, with ally attack, you immediately want to get allies, and you're not going to grab a weapon, because if you're grabbing weapon and then grabbing 6 allies, you're just spending a lot of Doom, and you're already spending a lot of Doom with the ally attack strat anyway, because you have to visit the illegal den, grab 3 allies, which costs you at least 15% Doom on top of the Doom you spend entering the thing, which is why even entering the schoolyard is going to be a lot of Doom on top of it, or re-rolling. But it does essentially guarantee. I don't think I've ever seen this fail. And again, if I were to give advice, I would advise people to look for experience. But again, be aware that you're doing some RNG, as we all mentioned. And then in Force to Help or Intimidate is usually when you have high Doom, so it's not viable for ally attack because your Doom is low, 2, you don't have a weapon at all, unless you buy a weapon. But as I said, if you buy a weapon and then grab allies, you're just spending a lot of Doom for pretty much no reason. Hey, look at that person in the window. And yeah, and if you do a raw Intimidate without any weapon or no high Doom, you're very, very likely to fail. So yeah, let's leave for the moment. But essentially, so we're looking for 15 experience so we can grab 3 allies immediately. Now, the RNG here is if you run to an enemy at all, things can get very bad. But the other side of it is, very preferably, you want to pass your checks to get experience. Now here I didn't pass because I rolled 12. So we're gonna visit downtown again, and as you can see, when I hit investigate, you're getting two experience per investigate. So at minimum, you're gonna have to pretty much go through nearly the whole mystery. And if that's how your RNG works out, and also keep in mind we're in botanist, so actually we're gonna go visit somewhere else. I think one of the really no place is safe, but we'll try the apartments just to see. Because I can think off the top of my head a bad enemy in each of the other locations. So double nurses in the hospital, obsessed man or inspiring model is worse in here. I think school is also relatively safe, but you can run to the young witch or the stalker girl, which do all damage. Seaside has class of 1941 or 7, I forget which year, but essentially that on top of other Seaside stuff that can slap you. You could run into Burning Man, which is interesting, but you're still rolling RNG there. And then the mansion has Rumugos, and a whole Rid thing, and I think one more thing. So that's why I think we'll do the school if I forget something. We'll find out. Roll a 12 again. So I mean, like, I can't explain how badly this goes for me when I try to do this, but we can turn on the lights, and now we can finally grab 3 allies. Again, that wasn't so bad, but we did have to spend Doom not going into because I took botanist, so that's partly my fault. But even if this were a regular mystery, you've just gone through the whole event. And again, this is kind of not standard either, because I'm purposely picking the school where if I were, say, in Ramen, I would be forced to go into the apartments in downtown, where the apartments you can get slapped by the Twisted Corpse. Or if you go downtown, you can get slapped by the Obsessed Man, Aspiring Model, to name 2 off the top of my head. I think there's one. Oh, the glued twisted face. I think it's called the glued. I'm just gonna call it the glued body. But that does like -2 all. And so if you're on a Katak run, even worse. If you're not on a Katak run, you're running for 5 Doom anyway. And so as you can see, I've already spent a large amount of Doom. I'm just gonna do a scary story just to. So scary story recruit is what I'm calling it. And then you're also, you know, the stats, but that's a negligent point in this matter, because if you're going to let go of a student anyway, I mean, yes, you have to spend more experience, but usually you're just going to keep the students. You can throw them away, depends on your RNG. And so at this point, now we visit the legal den. We get a Sato. We'll go through the whole run here, but just to kind of explain what's going on for the strat here. So we're at 34% Doom, and I don't remember how much Doom I was at when I was doing the other run, but I'm pretty sure it was less than this. And part of this was obviously that I went through the events, so unless I ran into an enemy, again, it's negligible in that... not negligible, but unless I ran into an enemy, yeah, the Doom here is maybe a little more, a little less than what I'd have, but... Regardless, this was not the worst RNG I could get. It was still pretty bad, though, because I had to do investigations that were not part of the main. And at this point, you might be wondering, well, Jordan, as I failed to get a dog here would have been great, because it's another ally. You might say, well, Jordan, maybe you had, like, say, Coma instead, which we can run to double nurses, but we'll assume Coma for a moment. Then I get my 6 investigations, and I don't run, and at that point, you're hoping not to run to an enemy, and maybe it's a bit more normal. So like I said, I would advise people to do Scary Story Recruit, but if it's not your flavor or bad things happen to you, switch to my strat, which is just to try recruiting without any Scary Story, Intimidate, so on and so forth, before any investigations, essentially. Now, funny enough, the fact that we're using custom events, or the custom content that I have loaded up specifically, is probably a lot better for me right now. Because as you can see, we're only taking -1 damage. Now it's -1 all, but you get the point. Even if you're taking -2 stamina, -2 reason, it's not so bad if you try to do Scary Story recruits. But again, you're working without a weapon, so that's not great. So here, yeah, if I had come into the Petrified Forest, there would be your 10 experience plus the bath, and so that's your lucky scenario, or your good luck scenario, where you immediately do your first investigation, you pass, and you get 10 experience. Sometimes you don't always get 10 experience, for those who don't know. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 8. But if you get 10 experience and then you take the bath for experience first, you immediately get your 3 students, and that's a very, very good. But as you saw with me, my RNG is not so great, so when I try that for myself, it doesn't end as well. And then there are some enemies in which you just don't get as much either. And then, as I said before, 6 charisma is the bare minimum, but you usually want to be at 7 or 8 and above. And the reason for that is that you can add a kick after this, which would allow you to possibly 2-turn encounters that have 25 or more HP. Now, it's still RNG, because with 6 allies, you can do 10 damage, as shown there. But you do a lot better still overall, from what I've seen, both on recording and off recording. Also, that encounter gives you a lump of flesh, so it's not so bad, but again, it's not always going to be that case. So yeah, let's see if we survive this run. At this point, we're just going to go through the rest of the run and see what happens. I think we have Fearful, right? Where did we get Fearful from? I don't actually know, but anywho. So we did visit the school twice. We can expose Shiro-san here, but there's no reason to do that, because that would be worse for me. Yeah. So, yeah, this was not... All things considered, the RNG here for Scary Story Recruit on this run was not so bad, but I still have a lot. I think I still have a little bit more Doom than expected. It's just it's not as bad as what I theoretically put forth. What could theoretically happen is that you run into an enemy, as I may or may not have said. You run into the aspiring model, and you're just like, well, you toss away 5 Doom, and that's a shrug situation anyway, because if you're gonna run for 5 Doom, you might as well have just visited the schoolyard and rolled twice on ally rerolls, because I personally believe that hitting Recruit with 6 charisma is about a 50% chance, and we'll even lowball it and say 40, maybe even 30% chance. At first, usually there are 3 students to start until you recruit 1 student. Then they drop down to 2, or you reroll enough times. But even if that happens, again, among 8 students, not recruiting 3 out of the 8 that you may roll through, let's even say 7 in this case. So not recruiting 3 out of 7 with a 30% chance is pretty much a coin flip in that regard. Better than a coin flip, but you get the point. We'll just say coin flip. And that, I feel, is just as close to the odds as going for Scary Story Recruit. But I do think Scary Story Recruiting, as I've shown in this run, it is, on average, better. I know this not just for myself, as we pretty much die. Never mind, I guess that's the end of the run. I should have really rested. Do I have Hot Bath? I did, and I didn't rest. But shrug my luck. But yeah, Scary Story Recruit has better odds. I know this because of my own testing, and I've seen other people do it. I can count on my hand the number of people willing to do ally attack in the same way I do it, but I do think it's an efficient way to play with a character with charisma. It's just that, for me, it doesn't work out if I do Scary Story Recruit, because, yeah, things like this happen. So, not this specifically, but you get the point. I go through and I don't get 15 experience for like 3 or 4 investigations, and that's 3 or 4 investigations that is too much for me. So, yeah. But again, if I forgot something, or there's something easier way to do Scary Story recruiting before any investigations, then let me know. Or if I got something wrong, which again, this video is more stream of consciousness, but future Jordan will decide what to do with this video. So without further ado, I guess I'll see you whenever I see you again.